Okay, so hi there, folks. Good morning to the people of, well, people in Asia or near the Philippines, and of course, good evening to the rest of the globe. This is another, well, actually, this is the second live stream uh, that we're doing here on YouTube, and it's called Plus Smorgasbord. And it's we're we're on the eighth edition of or on the eighth month after 10 years. So we're going on 11. Will be 11 years old on I mean in September. Yeah, on September 10, 2022. And well, this is an ongoing discussion or well live stream um, we're doing for the Venus project or resource-based economy. Well, specifically the sharing of this um, proposition in terms of um, addressing the world's problems. And so we'll be having once again our friend from Georgia, Clifton Barnes, who is the regional coordinator for the Venus Project Georgia, and he just got home, so he'll be joining us in a few minutes. Also, this is a continuation of our um, fundraising for the family of Ati Clemen and Daya from San Juan, Laia, Batangas. And this family has been our long-standing beneficiary. Um, yeah, because they have this lifelong struggle with hemophilia, and it's a rare case, a rare disease, which is transmit. In their case, it's transmitted by the mother, Ati Clemen, to the kids, um, male kids, and they only have three male kids, and the ones affected were or are the eldest son, the eldest of the youngest sons. So, and we're trying to come up with the funds for a fishing boat to gift them with by the end of the year so that they can use it for their livelihood because they're primarily a member of the fisher folk community that was displaced forcibly by politicians, armed goons uh, years ago, which because this politician wanted to convert the property to a resort, or a business establishment. Yeah, and so for a while, like for a few years, the fisherfolk community um, erected these makeshift homes, or they lived along the highway as a sign of protest, and of course, really, they didn't have any option but to stay as close to their livelihood, which was fishing. But the, the politician put a fence around the property, and so they didn't have any access to the ocean. And but so the fisher folk community, though, were I mean was offered a relocation site, which is far away from their their community. At first, like very few of them took the offer, and this family eventually um, decided to join the rest, or join those who already moved to this relocation site. And with the help of friends and family, the family was able to build their own house. But they're still, they're still facing these challenges every so often, where their kids would need transfusion of factor 8, which is that part of the blood responsible for blood clotting, blood clotting when, oh well, in cases of open wounds. So these kids have deficiency of that, and um, well, they're always risking you know, hemorrhage is a risk to these kids. Um, and so far we've uh, accumulated 1,900 pesos worth of donations, because the previous donations we've received from various people have already been consumed, I mean, used by the family for their emergencies, and including the funds during the pandemic, the funds supposedly for the fishing boat, because we had to release the funds to the family, because everybody was practically everybody was being laid off or losing their jobs, or everybody was hungry, and so there. But the fishing boat is just not really brand new. It's a second-hand, sturdy, still functional fishing boat. Used to be pegged at 10,000 pesos, but so prices go up, and now it's around maybe 17 to 20,000 pesos, and we plan on meeting that
Hello?
mm, budget for by the end of the year. Hey, Clifton, welcome back.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So,
I'm trying
do you
something out here and I'm not hearing you well.
do you already have your webcam?
So what?
Do you already have your webcam?
Hmm, hold on. Okay, can you say something now?
Hello?
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah. So, are we gonna see you today?
Hold up.
Like, are we gonna be able to see you today? Like your video feed?
No, unfortunately, I still have the same speaker and I don't have a camera yet.
Okay, okay.
I'm trying out this.
Excuse me.
Oh, wow. Say something again?
Hello, hello.
Okay.
All right. Um, let me check my feed here. Oh, so, huh.
You still hear me all right?
Okay, yeah. So, what did we discuss last week? Don't remember.
You mean you don't remember?
I've been really busy, but of course it's still the same things, right? Like,
That sucks because I don't remember either. No, we talked a lot about TVP related stuff actually.
okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I was tempted to really delve into this concept of intelligence,
Hmm.
um, because normally there is an this well established concept of intelligence, and we
Hmm.
have this of course it's relevant to the current system we have. It's and the current the context of socio-economic political
Hmm.
setup, but
Yeah.
how did the fresco view intelligence and or creativity, because that's a really important thing, among many
Hmm.
others. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for
Oh,
people
well, for
listening,
first of all, yeah, yeah, maybe people deserve to know you a little
hmm,
bit here. Yeah.
yeah, just for people who might listen to this in the future or who have never tuned in, um, my name is Clifton, and I'm a regional coordinator for TVP support, which is a volunteer organization that tries to advocate for the Venus Project's aims and proposals. And I've been doing that for quite a while, a number of years. I have a lot of other hobbies too, but I'm really into sustainability and such. And so I don't really represent the Venus Project, but I try to speak about it and try to promote it. So this appearance may not precisely reflect the views of the Venus Project. That being said, you asked about Fresco and his views on what intelligence is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he saw it in sort of a holistic view. He was very keen on not viewing things the same. regarding language first off,
Hmm.
because this is a issue of language and semantics also.
Yes.
So most people think of the word intelligence. If you ask them what they think of intelligence, what is intelligence? And they'll say things like intelligence is how smart someone is, how much they can remember things, or how fast they learn. Those are some views of intelligence.
Or their IQ level.
Yeah, IQ is, they have this benchmark
Hmm.
that they created, they meaning some people a long time ago, using certain criteria to view how much somebody knows, how much they can learn, how can they pick up concepts, how fast, and then they view that as in terms of intelligence, which are not totally inaccurate ways of viewing intelligence, but I'm not an expert on it. However, people have different viewpoints on what is intelligence. And Fresco's view about it was more general and more systematic,
Hmm.
meaning he didn't view it as a static thing. He didn't view things as in terms of what you're born with. And he viewed things very systematically in terms of taking a systems approach. So for him, intelligence was more about what are you intelligent about, and define intelligence more specifically, because he saw it in terms of people could be very intelligent in a way that we call book smart, like they're
Hmm.
smart reading books, they're
Or
smart.
scholarly people, or something like that.
Yeah, they know a lot from education in a classroom and
Hmm.
so on, or from watching videos or reading books. But you could put that same person in a different scenario that's not intellectual or academic,
Hmm.
and say put them on a farm and ask them to milk the cows and clean the pasture and take care of the the vegetables. Pick a bunch of
Yeah.
apples or something from
Uh,
the tree, and someone like that would probably have a hard time unless they
mhm.
had done it before. So there's two types in that scenario of intelligence, but really intelligence is it's very flexible. It can be about all kinds of different things.
Or what kind of information is available to you, right? Well, because
Yeah.
and how you put them together, maybe in a certain situation, or how you use the
Mhm.
information you have or you have available to you. And that there, I think that is also sort of compatible with the way he viewed creativity, because I think the two are closely related or correlated.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, creativity and all these concepts are he had a fairly unique way of looking at them, and creativity was one thing he spoke about a lot. And he viewed creativity as just not coming from within. It's not something you're born with. Creativity is a matter of how many things have you been exposed to, and what is your experience in life.
Hmm.
And when you are creative, like an artist, for instance, the way we view someone as being creative, he viewed that as just someone who is exposed to lots of different things. And a person's creativity is simply taking existing concepts and rearranging them in unique ways. There
Hmm.
was no unique creativity that came only from you. It's a matter of a compilation of all the things you've experienced in life mixed in with whatever, I guess, biology you have, and
Mm-hmm.
then whatever you come up with creatively is a combination of those things. It's not something you just came up with.
Yeah. And well, I think David is joining us here in the comment section of the YouTube live stream.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, do
Hi,
you
David.
remember David? Yeah, David Medina.
David Medina. I recognize the name.
He used to be a part of the study group we had for the regional coordinatorship. Do you remember?
The study group.
I mean the training, the training
Yeah,
we had with Sue. Yeah.
the orientation course.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you remember David there from that.
Hmm.
Mm. So he's here in the comments. I'm just yeah. Hi, David.
Can you share the link to the Facebook comments to the stream?
The stream.
It's on. It's live on Facebook, right?
Hmm. But I'm wondering why my Facebook post doesn't show the actual video, as live. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, some I don't know what I did there, but let's see. So I already shared the link actually to the link to the live stream. It's right there,
In the chat.
but oh, well, in our chat. Wait. Da, 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 da. Oh, okay. Psst. There you go. All right. So it's great to have you in the
Hmm.
comments there, David.
YouTube.
YouTube, yes. Actually, he's already a regional coordinator for TVP now. Wow, congratulations. You made it.
Hmm.
He's from Venezuela, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
David.
Yeah, David.
Oh. Oh. Well, now I'm probably
You're,
feeding back what.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think just have to mute your YouTube feed.
Yeah. Okay. There.
Yes.
There's no
All right.
point in me having it on, but
Mm,
except to see the the comments.
yeah. Wow. Okay. So there's that's some great development there, David. So how has it been? I mean, how's your coordinatorship?
Sorry, for some reason David Medina didn't click for me, but yeah, I chat with him all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So where were we? I think one of the examples that Fresco used to give regarding, I mean, like if you have an Eskimo and you asked him what he'd like for his birthday, he couldn't possibly like, imagine or say something like I want a Rolls Royce or something like that because I mean a person is
Hmm.
limited by his immediate environment, and so his creativity and therefore intelligence are dependent on that too. And a person may be born into a remote area, not so civilized, not so developed, but with a very well a good brain, by which we mean maybe there's like good connections there within the brain.
Hmm.
and uh, and so if that person is born into a let's see a fascistic community,
Hmm.
and so that child will grow fast and as a fascist, really fast, and pick up things from the environment really fast because of his brain. But of course, if he doesn't leave the community or doesn't travel elsewhere, he wouldn't know anything else.
Yeah. It, Fresco made a big distinction between intelligence and culture. So,
I mean, like, if there's this IQ test, uh, where standard questions are used, right? And I mean, you can't pose the same questions to someone who's not familiar with certain ideas or certain um, things like actually found in certain cultures. And if you throw those questions at a person who's not who hasn't left his country or village,
mhm.
then 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 what now? Does that mean the person is dumb, or see, that's so it's also quite a cultural thing, this thing called IQ.
Yeah, so they developed these IQ tests in a certain way that is from the viewpoint of, the Western world
Hmm.
in things that we value. Um, I've never actually even taken a IQ test, but I know people who have, and
um
I
I mean,
honestly
like,
don't know what they test you for, but
mhm,
it's a set thing.
mhm.
And what were you gonna say?
Well, yeah, they have a standard of questions or test questions, and well, really metrics there. So uh,
Yeah,
that don't necessarily apply to everyone. So I mean, these IQ tests are not really reliable, and they're specific to a certain culture,
yeah, at a certain time.
a certain time.
Um, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like there's no such thing as how fast someone learns or how much they can
Hmm.
remember. Those are always factors, but there's a lot of variables besides
Yeah.
how fast you learn and what you remember. How good
So,
is your memory?
mhm. So
Um,
David is saying here anyway, by the way, that he's working with a TVP web page and trying to
mhm.
translate the I think this is the Venezuelan web page, or into Spanish, or
The
the
main,
original, the main, yeah. And he's trying to make a Spanish version of that.
yeah,
Hmm. Okay.
I think it's
And
just
he
because,
loves dogs too. If the if you're aware of that, or I mean, I think, or you're already aware of that. Like, he and his wife have dogs in at home.
hmm, yeah,
Hmm. So
I think
anyway,
I've seen them.
yeah. Have you seen the dogs?
I think I have
Hmm.
on one of our monthly update meetings.
Yeah. So we we are discussing these concepts here, or the concept of intelligence and creativity, because it's the kind of training that most people go through growing up even if they're from different societies or different cultures, is that people are trained really to become specialists, right?
Mhm.
And so the knowledge they consume or they're being fed are also specialized and not so well-rounded or all-encompassing. So
Yeah.
and the kind of feature that we are advocating here is where people are well educated in meaning they're educated to be generalists, right?
Generalists?
Yeah, like um
Are you referring to now?
I mean, in the future, we are advocating a future where people
Hmm.
could be, exposed to so many fields of interest or education.
Yeah. Um, a large part of our whole educational platforms has to do with the goal being to prepare somebody for the workforce. And that's been that way for a long time. Our educational system was designed actually to make somebody a better assembly line worker and to do jobs like that,
Mhm,
repetitive manufacturing and industrial work. That's where the basic structure came from, and it's gone back a long time. I used to post videos about that. I should bring that back up again, but it was basically designed to prepare people to work a job, and those jobs that were available most commonly were industrial type jobs. So it was about kind of narrowing somebody down to being able to learn the economic system we live in and then do a specific job within that system.
mhm,
And that doesn't really make sense in terms of educating someone to be a well-rounded and and knowledgeable person. It's kind of the opposite of that, actually. So when Fresco talked about education in the future, he talked a lot about the idea of people being generalists and not being specialists, because being a specialist narrows your perspective and it limits your knowledge and does all the things you don't want out of a well-rounded person who's knowledgeable in many different fields. And so that just reflects the economic model that we live in. The educational system has to cater to the economic model, because if you don't have a workforce of people who can do the jobs needed, then the whole system just comes to a halt, or it slows dramatically. So that's how our schools are made. That's why you have the traditional viewpoint of you have an institution where there are rooms, and each room is a classroom where a group of students go to, and then you have one teacher and they go to the front of the room, they have a blackboard or chalkboard to write on, and they talk about a subject, they write things on the board, they give the students homework. I mean, that's just standard education all across the world, pretty much. Yeah, and that does teach a limited amount. It does teach some things, but what Fresco referred to as education in the future would be more like maybe a little bit of that classroom just to get certain concepts down, and then kids would learn by going out and experiencing things like in nature and in laboratories. They'd do hands-on work, they'd travel, they'd have no limitations because they wouldn't have to be, stuck in one place in one town. It would be more about designing an educational system that allows them to creatively work with other people and to collaborate. And, in traditional schooling, are you there still? I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, I'm still here. Yes.
Oh, I heard you. I saw your mouth moving, but I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
So, just the final thought on that was that he viewed having a school system where it was all about hands-on learning and collaborating with other students. And what we call cheating today, where you look at someone's answers on their tests, would be there'd be no concept of cheating. It'd be about, and it'd be encouraging people to collaborate and work together, not study on their own and then try to be the highest score on the test where nobody shares information. Just much more what we would call a creative environment for learning.
Yeah, and well, you mentioned that the kind of education will be having in the RBE scenario is like um, kids will be more in touch with actual things rather than just concepts, right? And um, I think and Fresco made sure that this is accomplished by the designs he has, like for instance the how would you call it, living quarters underwater, or just these facilities where
Mhm.
like underwater you can um, observe life there in their natural, or animals or fish or whatever in their natural habitat, rather
Yeah,
than at the zoo
yeah. He,
or in captivity,
mhm. Yeah, I
uh,
mean, if you had a world that he envisions, you would be able to have students that go out in nature and view marine life or wildlife in their natural environment and learn that way, not from a film or reading out of a book while they sit in the classroom being told to sit and not move around and make noise. It would be a much different learning environment.
and he also added that there's just information or relevant information available everywhere you go, because the whole thing is like a university where you learn non-stop, and even on trains or wherever you go, information you need is it's just maybe a click away, or I don't know, a touch away, a tap of the some I don't know, piece of glass away.
Yeah.
So what can you say about the kind of education that Fresco had? How did he accumulate all these knowledge, all the knowledge he had?
Well, he had an interesting educational history. He was allowed to learn on his own. Um, he was not interested in traditional schooling. And early on, he tells stories of how he would kind of not go to school and do things on his own. He'd learn in his own little laboratory that he created. And some of the stories I'm a little bit fuzzy on. I'm not totally remembering how they happened, but he had a principle that allowed him basically to study what he wanted to study And he said that as long as he went to school, he would be able to learn the subjects that he wanted to study because, just traditional learning about what they were teaching in school did not interest him. And after that, when he was younger, he traveled across the country on trains and so on and had a lot of adventures. He originally grew up in New York and lived through the Great Depression, and that formed a lot of his experience in life, a lot of his viewpoints on what's needed in the world to solve problems. And he didn't understand at his age why the Great Depression was occurring. He just saw nothing changed in the world, but everybody's suffering and standing in line to try to get bread and cheese to eat. And people were panicking, and people jumped out of buildings because they lost a ton of money. And he just saw the world wasn't changed. He didn't understand that the money just disappeared. The money stopped flowing, and that's what caused all this. And he saw that as a problem, because we don't live in a virtual world where you can just live off of a concept called money. He saw it in terms of reality. We live in a physical world. Why is everyone having to go through all this when we have the same exact resources we did the day before the stock market crashed? We have all the same people, we have all the same knowledge, we have the equipment, the factories, all of the materials, all the raw things you need to run society. We're still there, but everything stopped, and tons of people suffered and went through starvation and all this hardship because banks collapsed. And so
Mm,
that was part of his what influenced him to create his ideas of a resource-based economy.
mhm,
And so he educated himself for the most part. He was an autodidact, they call that.
mhm,
He taught himself, and he was a generalist
mhm,
because he saw things in terms of how nature works, not monetary laws, natural law.
mhm,
So he traveled a lot, went to the South Pacific, went to places where people didn't wear clothes, and tried to understand what causes human behavior. And that's when he realized that people are not born with certain ideas. They're not born with a given one way of thinking. People are largely a product, so to speak, of their environment. And whatever country or time you come from, whatever culture or city or household you live in growing up, that is what forms your values and your viewpoints, and your worldview. And like you were saying about someone becoming a fascist faster, you often use those kinds of stories or those analogies, I guess, to say that if you have an operating brain that's normally working, it doesn't mean you're not gonna understand things a certain way. Um, he saw it in terms of whatever your culture is and whatever your background is. If you have so to speak, intelligent person, they'll just learn whatever the viewpoint is of their culture. So he said if they're If they grow up in a Nazi culture, they'll become a Nazi. It's not like being smart will show them that being a Nazi is bad, because values are based off of whatever you're taught, and almost anything can be normal to a person.
Mhm.
So it's very much a matter of what are you born with, what types of people
Um,
raise you.
a- and your circumstance really, in short, define you. And the
Yeah,
circumstances don't remain the same, and so you change with your circumstances.
yeah. Human behavior is lawful, is what it comes down to.
Hmm.
The only way to change human behavior is to change the environment of the people that are there. So
Mm.
there is no set way of thinking. There is no one way of viewing things. You view things based on how you were taught to view them. And it's an ongoing process throughout your life. It just happens a lot more in your formative years because the way your brain works is the human brain is designed to wire itself rapidly and learn very quickly at a young age because that is what benefits the species. So children pick up language and they pick up new concepts and they pick up words, and all these things around them are influencing them very rapidly. And then they say that that kind of tails off after a while because your brain gets wired a certain way, and you still can learn a lot throughout your life, but you don't have that pressure and that that young um, way of learning things super quickly as you age. So no matter what culture you come from, that's how you're raised. That becomes your normal. There is
So
no
when so
way
when
of
we say
thinking.
behavior is lawful, there really is neither good nor bad about people.
Yeah, there's no evil. That's another thing that we're taught, that there's some kind of a force out there. There's something that goes wrong with people and they become evil. That's what
Or
movies and
Satan
culture
or
reinforce.
the devil is making you do
Yeah,
bad stuff.
yeah, that's the age old thing about evil. It comes from the devil. So if you start doing bad things, that means you were influenced by the devil. You succumbed to, the Lord of Darkness. He somehow got in your brain and made you do these bad things, like you were corrupted or something. When scientists now know, people who study the brain and study behavior, they know that there's no such thing as evil. Never has been. A it's just a blanket way of trying to explain what causes people to do bad things, what we consider bad behavior, aberrant behaviors. And really, if you take any criminal, what we would call, and you interview them, and then you you look into their background, and you do research on where they came from, what their life was like before they did all this crime, what you always find is that these people committed crimes because they lived in very aberrated environments. So if someone lives in an aberrant environment, they're going to do aberrant behavior. They're abused, they're neglected, they're humiliated throughout their lives. They're around violence for many years. They don't have parents, or their parents are abusive to them. All these things happen. We talked about this last week, actually. I'm getting kind of
Yeah,
back onto
about
that same topic. Yeah.
Albert Fish. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Albert Fish, and he was what we would call a monster, you know.
Mm,
But Albert Fish wasn't born the way he was. He turned out. Albert Fish became that way through circumstances that he grew up in. And anybody, if you look at them, something caused them to do the bad things that they did. They didn't just have a loose wire. That does happen if someone's born and they develop a tumor, or they really do have some kind of a brain disorder, whether it's chemical or whatnot. That does happen. It's not impossible for physical things to go wrong in the brain. The brain is like anything else. It's an organ, and it's subject to the laws of physics, just like everything else. You know, if the DNA was something went wrong with it, and something happened to your brain, and you develop some kind of disorder, it could cause you to do things like that. But that doesn't explain the overwhelming evidence that if you grow up in a violent, poor, or abusive environment, you're far, far, many dozens or hundreds of times more likely to be doing bad things in your life. And on top of that, if you're living in poverty and you're desperate and you have no hope of ever getting out of it, that has its own, that enhances those things even more. Because if being violent and stealing is normal to you, and you're also desperate and poor, and people around you are doing well, then it's not a stretch to think that somebody would have no problems shooting someone for their money, or
mhm.
beating them up, or stealing their car, or any number of things.
So, are we saying here that like almost all of society is really wrong?
Most of society just doesn't understand cause and effect in terms of human behavior. That's probably the simplest way to say it. Cause and effect.
Hmm.
If human behavior is lawful, then if someone acts a certain way, something caused them to act that way, right? If it wasn't a brain disorder, what was it? All you need to do is look at their background, and that should answer your question.
Yeah, and first Fresco used to say that if he even if he just had an aerial view of a country or a continent or whatever, he could tell um the behavior of the people there just looking
Mm.
at a an aerial shot maybe, or or looking at buildings, you know, or but he
Yeah,
basically said that society was designed out of selfishness to every person is out for himself, you know,
yeah, in a
and
lot of ways.
mhm. But what there's still a lot of good in the world, right? Like, you know, in a specific semantic use of good and of or kind. How do we?
Yeah,
Or oh, David is trying to join us in the actual live stream here.
don't let them in.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just wait for him to settle
Hey,
down. Oh,
David's
hey, David.
here.
Hey, David.
Hello, can you hear
Wow.
us?
Yeah. How are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Hey, we miss you. Miss you, man.
Yeah, I know. I've been hidden in a rock.
Been what?
You've been hiding under a rock.
Oh, no, you haven't,
Ah,
because I've seen you. How's
well,
everything
yeah,
in Venezuela?
well, um, I will call it a forced normality, but
Wow.
money is moving around. Yes, a lot, and well, I would say that most people, including me, are living in some kind of bubble
Yeah.
because you can find food, you can find many things. Yes. Oh,
Mm.
gasoline is quite expensive if you have a car, absolutely.
Mhm,
Yeah.
But you have to move, of course. The government discovered that the US dollar, that currency, could solve many issues that the original Venezuelan currency could not.
Mm.
So, yeah, everything here is in dollars, almost. Of course, the local currency exists with a perfect devaluation. And yeah, most people are surviving in some way or the other, but others, it's more difficult, you know. The ones out of the bubble, let's say.
Mm.
And well, but here I am. Well, we have been talking a few days back, and in some way, I'm still active within TVP matters. Um, yeah, I forgot that this guy Fractal Core has this channel, and yeah, I hid
yeah.
him. I was hidden under the rocks. I didn't want to see him. Just was a little busy on social, some other stuff, family matters. You know that that type. But
Mhm.
yeah, I saw the
Yeah,
link
yeah. Yeah, it's
a
I
few
think it's
days.
the same for everybody else.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's really nice to see you again. And well, how's your wife and the dogs?
Oh, one of the dogs is walking all over there. It's quite old. One of the dogs. The other one
Mhm,
is more younger,
mhm,
and she's like a dynamite. But the other one is very very slow. We're
mhm.
expecting that she will leave us in any moment. But
Wow.
Mm.
yeah, yeah, man, she's 14 years old,
Oh.
and that's Magia. Okay,
Mm,
but
Mm.
she's, you know, we're taking care of her. Um, we keep her the most comfortable way possible for a dog, and her internal diseases that she has
oh.
related to age, of course.
Mhm, mhm,
But yeah, it's part of the family. We're not going to throw her away until when she passes away. Well, that will be another thing. But meanwhile, she's alive and we're enjoying her. We give her very much love. Let me see if I can put a selfie about her. Magia,
mhm. Oh,
can
there,
you see her?
Maya. Yeah.
Mm.
And that's one of the problems she has. She goes in circles and circles. That's
Oh,
a
yeah. Just.
degeneration in
Mm.
her little brain. Okay,
Mhm,
Yeah.
and she
mhm,
stays on that circle until she gets tired and
mhm,
throws. She puts herself on the floor, and you have to
mhm,
pick her up.
mhm,
But well, she
Mm.
still eats. She drinks water
Yeah.
and sleeps a lot. That's yeah. That we talked to the vet, the veterinarian, and she explained that for her age, that's part of the diseases that she has. And well, but we can put her to sleep, or we can wait until she finally passes away. So I think we're going to stay with her with no major problem.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
that she deserves all of that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So well,
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
so
So how is it
I was listening.
how's the Spanish website coming along?
Okay, well, actually, the framework or the framework is ready, and the Spanish website is ready too. Let's say the first draft. Okay.
Hmm.
There are other things that has to be done until it can be put online.
Hmm.
¿Quieres que baje? Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So I think that eventually, maybe November, December, the web page can be online.
Hmm.
That depends if the other few things get organized by that time. But anyway, there are other things that we can do meanwhile,
Yeah, of course.
and I'm
Yeah,
working on it.
we were just discussing primarily what was it? Intelligence, creativity, and now human behavior, at the center of it. And so we are at a point where we said something like there's neither good nor bad in people, and it's just your circumstances that and society is just not so aware of or doesn't really understand cause and effect. How what do you say to that?
Well, there's a lot we can or I can add about that, and I think in some way, uh, for this new society that EVP in some way is promoting, one of the fundamentals is that we all have to change our current mindset. We have to change it for a more appropriate one, which implies unlearning a lot of outdated values, customs, behaviors, and learn different ones, more appropriate to our times, very technology related, of course, because technology is part of our life almost every day. And um, it's a long way to go, really. Most people will understand this faster, others, it will take some more time. Do you remember the famous sentence of Jack, a 10-year project? Remember that? Well,
Oh yeah.
many people get in or very identified with that phrase, 10 years project. Well, of course, it's not their fault. It's the circumstances, their upbringing, and everyday experiences within this social economic system, not being exposed to different information. That's not our case, okay?
Well,
I think we're a little.
we mentioned earlier that while people's behavior is lawful, we can also change how they behave, right? If we change the circumstance or the variable environmental variables. Um, so Cliff, because Clifton, you already know that Clifton is also into dogs, right? He loves dogs, or maybe most animals also. But in your dog's case, can that be changed? Like, I think people say that old dogs cannot learn new tricks. Is that true? Or can your dog like maybe change that behavior of circling, circling and circling?
That could happen, but um, in my case, I don't think she needs any change. You know, she's
Mm-hmm.
almost at the end of her life. Talking about
Mm-hmm.
Magia, the older one, and in some way she's okay the way it is. You know, we accept that she's in that situation. Or another thing is the younger dog that is Cielo. I will selfie her here. Cielo,
Yeah.
that's the younger one. Okay,
Oh, nice.
and yes, she of course, if we change the environment within her, she could change a few behavior. Yes, but I think it's crucial. I totally agree with what Clifton said earlier about the environment determines the future behavior of many people. Or in this case, um, little kids, if their come or their upbringing is from a very nasty behavior, nasty environment, with a lot of problems, uh, unhealthy food, uh,
Yeah, poverty, and they're always
all of
desperate.
that. Yes, yes. I think that's
Yeah.
fundamental that
Mm,
we have to change the environment.
mm.
You know, it's really, really important that, of course, there are many other factors
Well,
that affect
yeah,
the environment right now.
yeah, that's true. And again, Cliff, if we can't change like a small portion of the global community, we're talking globally here, right? But if only one
Mhm.
country changes significantly for the better. Oh, yeah. Hey, Cliff, hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're still there. Yes. If we if a small part of humanity is able to change though, is that good? Or I mean, how do you view it? I mean, like change, are we talking about change that's in small increments, or it has to be like holistic change? Or how do we go from this kind of situation to RBE then, if we're advocating this kind of change? Uh, are we gonna is incremental change good for this movement,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
what we need is really like just a one holistic kind of change, like the whole of humanity changes like abruptly or something like that.
yeah. In order for most of the world or all of the world to change to this type of a viewpoint and to actually have real concrete changes in society, it's going to either take a long series of incremental small changes over time, because that's how in history all social change occurs. It happens slowly throughout time and with very much often conflict that goes along with that. But to do something like what we're talking about to change society, to understand all these concepts and realize that for people to realize that this is a better way to live, it's going to take huge amounts of education and time, unless something so bad occurs that it makes people look in a different direction. So either it's going to happen slowly over time,
Mm,
which I don't think we can afford to do, or something like catastrophic social breakdown or environmental, or both, is going to have to occur to snap people out of the lull that they're in, to snap them out of the sense of
mm,
mediocrity, or just the status quo that they're living in that became
mm.
normal to them.
Well, and but the people hate being called mediocre or primitive. Semantically, what is the what terminologies are we allowed to use here?
Well, you're allowed to use whatever terminology you want, but if you talk to people in a way that they're not accustomed to being talked to
Mm,
or with, they're not going to absorb the information as well.
yeah.
So we all have certain ways of talking that are normal to us.
Mm,
And I try to do that when I talk to people.
mm,
And it takes little baby steps for people to
mm,
understand whole new concepts like this. And people are just complacent. So, in order to shake people out of that complacency, either they have to go through extreme hardship or they have to be much more well educated. And it's not going to happen by force. And Fresco said, many times that you can't change people by,
twisting their arms or
yeah, by being violent or
yeah.
insulting them, telling them bad things. That just
Mm.
causes them to hate you and not listen anymore. So you've lost them.
So I have a really, I think it's a difficult question. I have. How do you reconcile like a dictator with the victims of martial law or human rights violations? How do you bridge the gap between them if you were to advocate this future, the RBE future?
Well, one way to do that is to show them that the dog I'm taking care of in the background, if you can hear that. But
Yeah, what was that?
I'm taking care of an Airedale Terrier actually right now.
I'm sorry?
Um, I'm taking care of a dog, and I
Oh,
just
okay.
barked at the neighbor's car that came
Was
up.
a Dory or what was his name?
Oh no, his name his name was Bori, but it's the addicted
Bori, I'm
dog.
sorry.
This is
Oh,
Amber.
Amber.
Anyway,
Okay.
I'll try to ignore. No, quiet. So if you have a dictator and then you have a bunch of people that they're dictating over, that's a big difference. It's hard to bridge that difference. So the problem is the dictator has their set of values, and then the people in society have their set of values and different conditions. The dictator is probably not a poor person, right? They're probably doing quite well, dictating from high above the normal population. So it's going to take monumental effort and change for that person to change their viewpoints, to give up their power, right? Because
Hmm.
their position is what gives them the power. So it's hard to convince somebody to understand something that takes away their sense of security. It's almost impossible. But the reality is that the people of the society are the society. A dictator is not the society, and it's not buildings and land and structures and equipment that makes society as people. So if the people are well educated and they come together and they unify and they use that knowledge and education, it doesn't matter what a dictator wants to do. It's not their choice. So the people have the power, but they're divided and they usually don't understand that. And they're all trying to survive. So that's one of the reasons why it's so easy to rule over people if you're a dictator, is you divide them and you get them to think that their neighbors are the enemy, and that, you know, it's either them or their next door neighbor. And so people always choose themselves if they have to choose, but it's a matter of the situation that they're in. If they're desperate and economic situations are poor, then everyone's trying to fight each other. So that's one of the reasons why scarcity is the source of most problems in the world. And the solution is to create abundance. And that's what this type of an idea aims to
So
do.
we're gonna be basically tell everyone, including the dictator, that we just you just give up your power and everything, the money and everything. We start a new society where everybody will be fed, will have abundance and all that. Will be taken care of. Will be living a life way better than the life of the rich right now. Um, so is that the way to go? Because they need incentive for giving up something they have been clinging on to for for forever.
I think David wants to answer this.
I'm sorry.
I would say that
Uh,
a dictator will not leave or will not get down in his position of power. He won't.
No.
I think that in the moment within his current mindset, he has a set of values. That's correct. I think that the only way that he could even try to change his mind is that uh, a very big circumstance happen, could be a tragedy, or even a coup or something like that could eventually make him change his mind. Um, I think that if people exposed to new and relevant information will eventually make a change. That takes time, okay? And I've been thinking in the previous, I've been talking with another RC, and he mentioned me something that I'm going to mention right now. If TVP in one moment has 1 million active people working around the world, we can eventually see changes a little faster, you know? 1 million people. From there, eventually more people will join more rapidly, let's say. Of course, TVP worldwide is not a million people. I think we're about 400,000, I don't know, or even less. I don't think we're a million people active, you know? What I can say is that there are, of course, more than a million people that has received or have heard about the Venus Project. That is true. And based on that, I think on an everyday basis, we should keep spreading the message, invite people in to know about it, Of course, not forcing anybody, and you're just sharing information. Okay. And of course, we're going to find a lot of 10-year projects, people, a lot. But I think we're going to find some that will understand TVP proposals a little faster. I think we do. There are plenty of people out there that when they join the pieces of this proposal, they will understand that this is way beyond uh, something totally new and different is being exposed to them and inviting them to participate. So it's a long road. Yes, it is. And we should not, let's use this word, not lose our faith on it. Okay. One day at a time.
Yeah, this is a this is a passion project for everyone here.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, yeah, that indeed, we have a long way to go regarding that, and it's a numbers game after all. We have to reach a critical mass, I think, critical number of advocates to spread the word. Yeah, that's what we're trying
Mhm.
to do. And so far, what's the biggest challenge we're facing? In tackling the concepts and sharing the concepts with people we meet. Cliff, given your tenure as an advocate, do you still
Mhm.
what's your I mean, what's your biggest challenge these days?
Biggest challenge is having to work a job and having to deal with the monetary system. Um, People's general sense of apathy is also a big one. Um,
Hmm.
I think in the most wealthy countries, it's the hardest to change to this type of an idea because if they're wealthy and they're doing well and there's no reason to change anything, why would they
Yeah.
want to give up their security?
Mm-hmm.
So I live in a country where, you know, there's a lot of wealth and there's a lot of people who are doing better than other parts of the country. So that's a big challenge. Um, and I'm also in a part of the country that let's just say isn't culturally known for being the most open-minded and the most um, I'll just leave it at open-minded. So tolerant is another way you can say that. But I think, and ultimately, and it's the hard thing for a lot of volunteers to wrap their heads around. But ultimately, we have to embrace the system that we live in and try to work within it in order to change it. We can't try to separate ourselves from it and avoid, using money and avoid those things that go along with it. We have to understand the system, the monetary policies, the economic functions, and all the things that most people in society don't understand. We have to become experts at that, I think. And we have to understand at a higher level what the strengths and the weaknesses are of the system that we live in. Because
Hmm.
even if you're not advocating for changing the system, that's going to benefit you anyways, right? Even if all you want to do is make the most money possible and live a good life, um, it's not like that's going to hurt you. But I've said it a lot. I see it in terms of we have to use the monetary system against itself because it doesn't recognize things that are good for the environment or bad for people or what. They don't, the system is just, it's just an automated system of mechanisms that's been put together. So if you're poor in this system, you don't have much influence. If you could somehow give the Venus Project $100 billion, you'd start seeing stuff happen real quick. So we have to understand that we we need to work within the system in order to change it.
Mm. Yeah, and also I think we need to make this distinction between TVP and all the other so-called radical movements that came before or came after. Um,
Yeah.
are we communist? Are we socialist? Are we uh, what's this anarchist?
Well,
Uh, um,
we're humanists. We're realists.
mhm,
That's the only ism that you can say we are, is we're into realism and humanism. Um,
mhm.
Politics is not the answer. If it was, we would have figured things out centuries ago.
Well, I think though that your audio has become so
Are you
faint.
having trouble hearing
It's
me?
yeah, it's a little bit faint, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that better?
yeah. That's way better. So
I,
I think
okay.
there's like a I don't I'm not sure how to say it. I'll reveal a there's like a some sort of community already started by somebody. That's also I don't know if it's circular or I think Roderick asked me in a post in the Plus group about that movement. So it's just that I mean the striking thing about these other movements is that they share some similarities with the TVP and well including maybe circular structures or design and stuff like that. But um, and there are also other people saying almost the same things about how to change the world or what's the problem with yes David.
Well, yeah, there are many people that could have something similar ideas or forking, copying TVP ideas. Okay. Beyond that, I think most people are looking for fast answers and fast solutions. TVP proposal is everything but not that hard, not even fast or simple. Let's put it in that way. Um, People need to solve their problems. That's true. Poverty, hunger,
Mm.
there are wars. Most recent, this situation in Ukraine, thanks to
Housing
this dictator from Russia, all of
mhm.
that.
And the return of the
There may,
dictator's son here in the Philippines, the return to power, yeah.
yeah, exactly. He wants to reunion the Soviet Union, let's say again. That's what he wants to do. But
Mm,
I think that most of these people does not have the tools to solve, or let's say, give another perspective to their problems. Okay, and because of that, they are stuck sometimes. I think that one of the things that, in a personal way, EVP has the information I have received have unstuck me from all of this uh, crazy beliefs, uh, these customs locally, religion, and all of that. Of course, most people could consider all of this offensive because they are not being exposed to another type of information. So, it's as I said earlier, it's hard. It's a long road that we have to travel. But we have to keep spreading the message and
Mm.
don't let's say let's not expect that this is going to arrive in 5, 10 years. If it does, it does. But if it does not, we have to keep working.
Mhm.
Spreading the message, answering questions, inviting people, of course, learning a little bit more, all of that.
Mm. Oh yeah. So Clifton here shared the link to auroville.org. So
Yeah.
what makes us different from all these other movements, though, Cliff?
Well, the main thing is that Jacques and Roxanne, they chose to focus on the root of the problem in societies around the world, which is that the structure of our society itself is the problem. It's not corrupt humans. It's not a flaw of human nature.
Hmm.
It's not a corporation or banks. It's not politicians. It's the structure and the way we organize society itself. So what their attempts to do is it's a software upgrade, so to speak, for society. And in order to do that, you have to educate and make people more aware of other possibilities of their way of life. And people, if they're given the right information and they understand how much better their lives would be, they wouldn't really need much convincing of this. The problem is most people are convinced that the system we have today is the height of civilization. It's the best we could get. And all we need to do is make more money and have better technology when really that's only going to give us more of what we've already gotten, which is a lot of environmental decline, a lot of animal species going extinct, a lot of global warming or climate change, whatever you want to call it. And if we have more and more people to support the system that we live in now, it's just going to accelerate the problems unless there's a major shift. And it's possible that we could keep the system we have now and improve things a lot because of businesses that do things like renewable energy and so on. But the real solution is to change the structure of our whole socioeconomic system globally. That's the most direct and the best way to do it. And that's a monumental effort that's going
Yeah,
to
we
take.
need everybody's cooperation, right?
Yeah. And
It,
you asked earlier, how do we do it? Well,
mm,
we invite nations to come together and we educate the masses about it. And if the masses of people around the world want this to happen, there's nothing that bankers and corporations can do to stop it because people are society, not them. Society is not an elite group of people who have a lot of money.
yeah. Uh, So isn't the United Nations doing that already, or is it isn't it one of its directives, like to really bring all nations together, bridge the gaps, and move forward, united, really united.
Well, that's their stated goal, but their goal is to do it within the current system we have now
Oh
without
yeah,
changing anything
oh yeah.
fundamentally, right?
And
It's a
of
good
course
goal,
there's
but
like a universal declaration of human rights, sort of,
yeah,
which
yeah,
also is just relevant to the system and within the system. And I mean,
yeah,
it's one of the really interesting things that we have to discuss, I think. The next week, let's make sure to tackle that, because I think
yeah,
I have like a small clip, I mean short clip, the TVP clip about Fresco, um, commenting about people wanting or having freedom, when in
hmm,
fact they are just imposing what they like or what they prefer, instead of and it's somewhat saying that the concept of rights, individual rights, is problematic, and there's no such thing, you know.
yeah. It's another semantic thing, if
Hmm.
the United
It's all
Nations,
about semantics, and we're
right,
threshing this out, because the kind of mindset or worldview that this is coming from is also problematic, and it just manifests in everything, in everything
yeah,
we know, we see, we hear, and it's just this old, outdated worldview or understanding of the world, really, that's
yeah,
affecting all of us.
yeah. Fresco used to say that our society and the way it's structured now is it's established. It's an establishment way of thinking.
Yeah,
And what he describes that's much better is something that's emergent, that's fluidly changing. 'Cause if you try to change things fluidly in today's world, you're going to hit a brick wall real quick because there are very established power structures in corporations, business, government, politics, and so on. And their interest is to keep things mostly the same,
yeah,
not
and they
change them.
run for office to keep the status quo, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people might run for office for with good intentions, and that's great.
Yeah, good intentions, but they're not aware that they're just maintaining the status quo, because all we come up with are band-aid solutions,
They're
to
also
the existing problems that are in fact just symptoms of greater or worse problems.
Yeah, the solutions they come up with are all within the framework of today's
Yes,
society, so it doesn't
and
go
are
outside
products
of
of the
that.
same mindset that created the problems in the first place, right? Like what Einstein
Yeah,
used to say.
yeah. So, and this goes along with this is one benefit of the things that we talk about and we've learned is that most people will blame a politician or a CEO of a corporation for what they're doing. It's not
Hmm.
their fault. Like they're not responsible for their behavior because they were raised in a way where they were taught that more money is better and that
Yeah.
the solution is the free market system.
Yes,
And
and it
it's,
is true for the system, and within the system, it really money will take you places.
yeah, I mean, that's this established system we live in. So if you have more of
Yeah,
it, of course, it's going to help
yeah.
you.
You have more freedom, more control.
Right. But they don't, it's very hard for people to look outside of the structure of our own society. They only see things within
Hmm.
the way they've been raised, and that they don't.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for people to see outside of that. Very few, one in millions, can probably understand that, but for whatever reason, Fresco understood it and saw it
Mhm.
and tried to create a system that surpasses that and doesn't take down the old system, but makes a new one that's better instead. So it's about building something.
And I think one other problem we have is that, we're people are trained to just, think simply. Like
Yeah,
maybe the answer is the Occam's razor or something like that. Like, um, and that's the downside of, making things palatable to people also, because then after that, okay, I understand to some level, to a certain degree, and then you don't follow through. We don't get a chance to follow through or dig deeper into concepts and things in life in general. And so we're stuck in this let's keep things simple kind of behavior or manner of doing things or thinking. So
yeah,
there's that barrier, I think. So Dave, what do you have to add to that?
I would I would say that most most people, let's keep things simple and not change nothing
Mm,
within this system,
yeah,
and yes, I think that the moment that you present something better, that's what is already working, people will see the difference and they will start to migrate to the other, to the better one. And the idea is not to crash to the brick wall. No, we got to go through it or over it with education, solid proposals, relevant information,
mm.
no politics, of course, no money, no wars, none of that. Okay, that will take
yeah.
some
Yeah.
time.
That's one of the things that Fresco and the Venus Project says is that it's beyond politics, poverty, and war. But what's important is how to get beyond those things. And this society, yes, it doesn't have money, but the more important part is why would it not have money if money is so important? And the reason why is because you have to look at the roots of where money came from and why it exists in the first place. So if the society is organized and works in a way that makes money irrelevant, then it'll simply go away go away naturally on its own. And yeah, David's got to get going here, and so do I soon.
Yeah,
But
so do we. And well, what we're trying to do is really introduce something new, because otherwise we're just, what they're saying about all the discussion, political, whatever kind of discussions with people have been having all these centuries, will always become moot and academic if we don't put forth something new, really to the table.
yeah,
Like really, but and hence my question of, well, what makes us different? You see, what do we have to offer that's different from all the rest, right? And you'll have to really work on that too in explaining that in our and every time we're here on the live stream. So in closing, guys, can we have can David pick a page off the book of quotes,
sure.
or is he already gone?
Can you
Yep,
hear us,
yep.
David?
Well, I don't have it at my right here now.
I have it.
Um,
Pick a
maybe
number
Clifton.
from 1 to 201.
Okay, 57.
57. Okay. The quote goes, this is a quote from Fresco. If you believe in God, if you understand the teachings of all religions, you believe that there are no property lines in heaven, no banks, no personal positions in which one person is elevated above another. If the earth were, yeah, if the earth were the common heritage of all nations, and all of the artificial boundaries which separate people were removed, there would be no basis for war, no basis for armament. So yeah, that was a good quote. Actually, it turned
Yeah,
into something we were talking about, and
yeah.
he was just saying that all these lines we have are artificial. You know, if we all went to heaven, none of that would exist. So make heaven on earth.
Mhm.
I guess that's a
Yes,
good
yes.
way to end it for
Yes,
me.
and people in government anyway cannot help but still resort to the Bible or whatever their faith in in addressing all these hurdles or problems in government, society, in family and all. There should be a separation between the church and state, but the state people still can't help be their real religious self or something, right? So
Yeah,
there. Um, if you have to apply your religiosity or your faith to your governance, then there you go. There's something to think about, and
yeah,
as a guide for your I know governing society and people. So
yeah,
well, it's been really really great to be with you guys here again, especially David. Really great to see you again. We've missed you. I've missed you, man. Hope to have you again next week, right?
yeah. Tune in again.
I will do my efforts. I won't gonna hide that rock. I can be available.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so Cliff,
Oh,
yeah, once again, thank you so much. You guys are
yeah.
really
Thank you.
great. You rock. Live long and prosper,
Live long
and
and prosper.
have a good life. See
Have
you
a
next
nice
week.
life. I extension
Bye
you
bye.
all.
We
Bye.
extension you
Bye.
all. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye bye
you
for
all.
now.
See ya.